morning. Oh, thank you. How's everybody doing? All right, what do we all think about that Ian's breakfast pizza? Give a shout out to Ian's on that one. Hello. Woo. Hot sauce. Thank you all for being here. You're all awesome people. Appreciate it. I'm going to go through this quickly and try not to talk a lot, which is a challenge for me, to be real honest with you. So just a little bit quickly about Social Media Breakfast. Our focus is to educate you and ourselves on social media through presentations, panel discussions, and case studies. We bring together great people like you that want to learn about social at a higher level and talk through it and get into some tactics. We meet the third Wednesday morning of each month. We meet in, as you can see, various locations. So what we are always looking for is we're always looking for sponsors, of course, and we're also always looking for great venues. So we have been lucky to find great venues such as this, but if there are other places that you know about that we could help host an event at, we're happy to partner with organizations, and that would mean the world to that. So speak to any of the board members for details, or you can tweet at us, or Facebook us, if you've heard of that. Here's some board members, friendly faces. I happen to think that the guy in the blue vest is a handsome one. Jeff, who is speaking today, is on the left over here, so he's a board member. It's exciting. So, there's really no lack of ways to get a hold of us. If you feel like communicating with us, just take your pick. We also have a Gmail address. That's a Google Mail address if you need to contact us via email. Next month, who's jacked for Don Stanley? Man talking about how to deal with content. Let's hear it for Don Stanley next month. Going to be awesome. If you don't know Don, just prepare yourself and go out and just cut out the seatbelt out of your car and use it for this breakfast, because you're going to have to buckle yourself in. I'll think of another way to say that. I did not recommend that. As a hypothetical idea. You're going to need a hypothetical seatbelt to buckle yourself in, because Don is awesome. Great guy. Then on July 15th is Alder Maurice Cheeks, who is another incredibly awesome person, who is going to be speaking about a topic of which he is still contemplating, but it'll be related to social and awesome. So get ready for that. And then on the 19th, the Thumbs of UW Madison, Nate Moll, a good friend of mine, is also going to be speaking. And Nate is a fantastic person that has really honed in on the using UW's account to connect and engage, specifically around a whole variety of issues. So it's going to be a really interesting talk about how you can really use Twitter and Facebook to connect with kind of your constituents in a way that's very unique and engaging. And then in September, this just keeps getting better. Spencer X. Smith is going to be here, and he is, if you've not seen Spencer speak, you're going to want to come to this event. Definitely mark it on your calendar, because he's an incredible speaker that talks about teaching-based marketing, which is something that's extremely relevant and very helpful to those of us in the marketing world, and those of us that aren't even in the marketing world. So if you have any ideas for future speakers, you can tweet us or send us a communication via one of those many thousands of channels you saw before. And no one is off limits, it says, so, just saying. Hashtag for today, SMBMad. And if you have not yet taken our survey, we'd love your feedback, which is /survey on our website. Well, thank you to all of our awesome sponsors, and I'm being serious, and I'm kind of a jokester, but thank you. Without you, we wouldn't be possible. We're here, so thank you. All right, so let's get into it. Going to introduce Jeff, who is at Geekazine, if you want to tag him in your posts, about adding podcasting to your social media plan. So let's give it up for Jeff.
So let's take a quick survey. Who likes the meat lovers? Out of the three, who like the meat lovers? Who like the, I can't even, ranchos, whatever it is. Who like that one? And who is for the sweet potato and kale? That's some good stuff. So, all right, and one more thing is that's Mad Orpheum, if you want to add that into the tweets. So most of you probably know me through here. You know, I do a lot of the video recording here at Social Media Breakfast, and a lot of you, some of you know me as a podcaster. You've seen me with my podcast at Geekazine. I got a podcast day in tech history. I do a live show, Wearable Today. I live in the tech space, and I'm also out in many different events, doing a lot of different podcasting. So first of all, I want to thank you guys. I love the fact that you guys are here at 8 o'clock in the morning? I don't even know what time it is anymore. To actually see me. So I really appreciate it. Give yourselves a hand. Thank you very much. All right, let's start with a simple fact. That is not the simple fact. That is the wrong presentation. The average user spends about 8 hours a day online, and 1.72 of those hours are into social media channels, their Facebook, into the Twitter, into the LinkedIn, into the Instagram, and stuff like that. It does rise. In fact, it rose up 0.81 from last year. It's going to rise again. And of course, everybody in this room, I expect, is way past this number right here. I know I'm more than 8 hours a day online myself, and more than 1.72 hours via social platforms. Because why? We live in this platform. We live on Facebook. We live on LinkedIn. We lived on Twitter. We lived on Pinterest. That's what we do. That's how we try and put it into our jobs and work from there. But you know, if the average person, and then we're talking, let's just boil it down to Madison. There's about 250,000 people in Madison, 500,000 people in Dane County alone, 1.27 hours in the day. That's actually a very small number, because if you think about it, you're on Facebook. When you're on Facebook, you're basically just kind of scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and posts pass by like no tomorrow. And then you stop, you see that one picture, it's like, oh, I like that, and you hit the like, and then you continue on. And it's very rare that you actually go and you engage into that post and find out a little bit more about it. And it's usually one of those silly dipply things where it's like 25 celebrities that have come to Madison or something like that. And you sit there and you wait for the next page to load up, and then some audio's in the background, and you're going, oh my God. And then you get to like the third slide and you click on it and I'm done. And you move from there. And then that wastes that 1.72 hours of your time. So what you have to do, what you want to do, is you want to engage these people, but you know, you have to compete with so much other stuff. It makes you kind of feel like a gnat on the internet with your content. And you want to do the rule of three. You want to promote your stuff. You want to engage the people that are part of this, and you want to amplify what you do so people come to you, people that need you come to you for what you do. So what do you do? I like that picture. So you post stuff. You post pictures. They tell you to post pictures, good engaging pictures. So then these are my engaging pictures that I get when I go out and do some of these events, and they do great. I get a lot of likes on them, I get a lot of posts on them, but you know, they're also, you know, within 24, 48 hours, they're gone off of your feed, off of your Facebook feed, off of your Google Plus feed. You could try doing the blogging thing, 1,500 words to try and say one message, and that is, come to my Facebook profile, come to my LinkedIn profile, and you do that, and you do that on a regular basis, and you do that, and you schedule it, and you try and get people engaged. But some people, like myself, don't really read 1,500 words, or one word, or something like that. So what do? Can you bring people with pictures? Can you bring people with blogs? Yeah, you can. You can engage people in multiple ways. But you still feel all alone at the end of the day and wondering, where should I focus my attention when it comes to social media? Well, I'll tell you one thing. What I focus on is I focus on the podcast aspect, the audio, the video of podcasting. And I've made a career, I've been a little career out of it. It's kind of supported me for the last 8 years. I'm here to show you that podcasting should be a part of your social media. Podcasting can help you with that engagement and gain that more of that 1.72 hours. Now in here, what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about the benefits of adding a podcast. Maybe you've already, has anybody started a podcast already or has a podcast with our area? We got a couple of hands here, over there and over there. We're going to talk about the benefits of adding a podcast. We're going to talk about making community with your podcasting and keeping your content on track for the success in social media. Now, if you know what this is, don't expect to be it. If you don't know what this is, it's actually really cool because it's technically the first viral podcast. This American Life put out I guess you call it a vertical, called Serial, which is a story, and basically they delve deep into a story about a boy, Adrian Said, I believe is his name. Back in 1999, he was accused of murdering somebody, went to trial, was convicted. A lot of issues with the trial, a lot of issues with the evidence that was presented. Serial went back and did I think it was like 12 episodes, showing how this kid did not murder the person. And it's gotten to the point that the show itself gets like 5 million listeners every single week. And the better part is his trial he's now getting a retrial. They're working on that right now. In fact, a couple days ago, they made some great breakthroughs on getting him a new trial. So that's amazing. But just don't expect, it'd be nice if you get 5 million, and I'll be happy if you get 5 million to your podcast, but don't expect it. Now here's a fact. The fact is, if you put out a show and you don't promote the show, on average, you're going to get about 150 listeners. If you do a little bit of promotion, if you do things even more than just, hey, here's my podcast, we'll see you next week, you could get somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000. And in Madison, that's almost 1% of Madison, and that's a pretty good number. If you can get 1% of Madison, or up to 10% of Madison, oh wow, you've got a pretty good show right there. Podcasts, one year you'll hear podcasts are dying, another year you'll hear podcasts are growing, but the bottom line is podcasts continue to grow. People will consume content because they're finding new ways to consume content, whether it be through their car, whether it be through their Walkman. Yeah, I know, that was an old reference, I don't know why I said that. Whether it be through airplanes, air traffic, Wi-Fi is getting better. In fact, GoGo Internet, which is one of the Wi-Fi companies that supplies Wi-Fi to the planes, just worked out deals to increase the Wi-Fi in planes. And they're starting it in Japan, where you could actually watch a Netflix movie, watch a Hulu TV show, and not have buffering and actually be able to do more stuff. So you'll be able to work, or when you're on a plane, so you'll be able to actually enjoy things like listening to podcasts a lot more. And we're going to consume a lot more as it goes. So that number is going to grow exponentially. Now a little bit about me, because you're probably wondering, well, who is this guy? Who's this guy that's talking in front of you? I've been a professional podcaster for 8 years. I started as an IT administrator. I did that for 15 years, and I had a life-changing event. And I said, well, I'm doing this podcasting thing. I actually did podcasting longer than 8 years. But it was always off and on. And I said, well, I'll try this podcasting thing. So I started Geekazine over at geekazine.com. And then I started my second podcast, which was, it started as The Week in Tech History, turned into The Day in Tech History. And then I've been doing podcasts ever since. I was asked, hey, can you help me with my podcast from a friend of mine, and I helped them, and I kind of moved on and became a podcast coach for a lot of people. I'm a professional eventcaster, and you're going, what's an eventcaster? It's basically, podcasting has always been the home thing. You always have to do it at home. That's the feeling for podcasting. I go out to events. In fact, a couple of weeks from now, I'll be going out to Las Vegas and doing some shows some recording for some people. So I call myself an event caster. It's just a feel-good thing for me. So if you want to call yourself a podcaster, an event caster, a net caster, whatever, that's fine. But I call myself a professional event caster. I have the most published podcast to date in the day in tech history. It's over 2,100 episodes. It runs every single day, 365 days a year. You can find that at dayintechhistory.com. And you get to learn a few things. Like yesterday was The Phantom Menace was released in 1999, which was kind of more geek than tech, but got a little bit of that in there. So I create podcasts for other people, including Fortune 500 companies, which is what I'm going to do in a couple weeks when I go to Vegas. And I'm also the community leader over at the podcasters community in Google+. This is over 5,800 podcasters asking questions, answering questions, and includes 5 of the top podcast coaches in the nation, which I'm really happy to have that and be able to host that. So the question now is, who are you? Okay. Who are you? Why are you here? Are you here to learn more about the podcasting aspect? Are you starting to get into the podcasting? Your boss told you, hey, we should look into this whole thing. Are you here because you don't have to go to work for a whole hour? I don't know. But who are you? One of the people that I met even before I started was Jenna Atkinson here. She sent me a tweet. In fact, I got a few tweets. I thank everybody for sending me tweets about this event. But she said, hey, I'm looking forward to hearing you speak at the SMBMad event next week. Excited to get some tips from our new Growth Bomb podcast. And I'm going, well, that's pretty cool. So I looked it up. Pretty cool little podcast. I got about 5, I think the 6th episode came out. Talking with different companies and doing like a kind of little round table thing. They're all, from what I understand, they're sitting around a table and they're doing 2-on-1 interviews and stuff like that. They just interviewed somebody from SVA. And it sounded great. It looked great. The website looked great. It looked professional, and I was pretty impressed with what little time they did for this. And of course, they're looking for people that, from what I understand, is people, they want to target people that are entrepreneurs. They want to target people that are business people. They want to target the top level executives and even those go-getters, those people that kind of don't fit into there just yet, but will eventually be on the entrepreneur business people and marketers and top level exec type positions. But what was more impressive about this is Jenna here. She said she was going to be here.
Right here.
Raise your hand. Give her a round of applause. You didn't know I was going to do this.
No.
Are you excited or?
Yeah, everyone should check it out on iTunes.
Awesome.
Today.
Yeah. The new episodes today?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. There's a reason to go check it out. So, but the one other thing that I really liked about this podcast was they did a collaborative podcast. 4 people doing 4 different things get together to do one podcast. And that's a really cool thing about doing stuff like this is you don't have to do it alone. You can work with other people. And if you're a one-person shop, like Jenna or myself, you can get together with other people and work on a collaborative effort. Because the best part about this is there's now 4 Facebook profiles working. There's now 4 Twitter profiles working. There's now, they've just quadrupled their effort for a show to give it better success in their social marketing. I do that with Wearable Today. That's one of the shows that I do. Myself, I started that about 3 years ago. Yeah, I know I look really dorky with all that stuff on, but 3 years ago I started, I was April 12th, if I remember correct. I started the show and I basically, I said, hey, I'm going to do a show. At the time it was called This Week in Google Glass. I'm going to do this show and I'm going to do it I'm going to start it in a month. And we're going to talk about wearable technology, mostly based on Google Glass, because, that was going somewhere. About 2 weeks after that, I got an email from Luke Wallace. And he said, hey, I was going to do a show on Google Glass myself. And I said, hey, come on, be a part of the show. He said, yeah. And then, of course, We've been doing the show for 3 years. Of course, we had to change the name to Wearable today because of what happened with Google Glass. It's coming back, don't worry. It's coming back. It'll be back, don't worry about it. So we've done about 73, 74 shows already, and it's been a great collaboration. I never met this guy, except online. He lives in Dallas, Texas. I live in Madison, Wisconsin. So it's amazing what you can do and how you can collaborate with people that don't even live in your city. Podcasts are about community. And it's a different type of community because it's not like the Facebook community or the YouTube community where you get trolls, where you get people that say stupid things. You get people that you learn their names. There's no facade. Yeah, every now and then you get somebody that tries to buck the system and stuff like that. But for the most part, these people are real people asking real questions, making real comments. And that's the coolest thing about this community is it's just so real. And yeah, I love it. So my community usually centers around technology geeks, around podcasters, around video content creators, around wearable technology geeks, and of course startups, because of course with technology, you always have to be on cutting edge in the startup area. What does the podcast community do? Well, like I said, they come together. When you start getting people into your show that start emailing you and twittering you and asking questions, and you get that real stuff like what Jenna actually posted to me on Twitter, it just comes together because they follow you. They want to know what your lifestyle is. It's kind of like that you just brought them into your family, and your family and your friends should be part of your community. And if they're not, then maybe they're not your friends or family. I don't know. But anyway, they also help out. You find that you are. Let's see. One thing that comes to mind. There's a guy by the name of Marco. He lives in New York. He works for MakerBot. We do the show, and we said, hey, we're talking about wearable technology. We were talking about 3D printing, the wearable technology. He came on the next week. He started sending us 3D printed wearable accessories. In fact, I was doing a thing on binaural podcasting, which is it's a special podcast where you get this microphone where it actually looks like two ears and an ear canal. And you put the microphone in the middle, and the idea is to give a whole stereo effect, a binaural effect, like they do in the movies. So he actually 3D printed up one of these of the ear canals for me to put a microphone in and actually do the testing on. So they help out immensely. They also bring insight. I have people that email me and say, hey, you should talk about this, you should talk about this. I just had one where I was talking about certain interview microphones, and somebody tweeted me and said, hey, you should do a comparison between this microphone because it's my favorite one here. It was a Sennheiser microphone. I then tweeted Sennheiser and said, hey, I'm looking, somebody wants me to do a review on that. And they can't. I just got the email yesterday, and they said, "Oh, we'll send me a microphone so you can do that review and go from there." So it's now another video, another piece for my podcast puzzle. Somebody in the community will collaborate with you, like Luke did, and then of course supporters, people that'll actually send you stuff like the binaural 3D print, or sometimes they send you money. A lot of people set up in their podcasts, they set up what's called Patreon, which is kind of like a crowdfund thing for podcasters, where they'll give them levels. If you donate $5 a week or something like that, then we'll send you stickers and we'll send you special videos and stuff like that. And there's a lot of podcasters that set up their Patreons and do very well with their Patreons to support them throughout the year. And that's what the community is really about. And it's amazing that it's how it's on. It's on in what you do in your podcast, as opposed to blogs. And yeah, you do have community in blogs, and you do have community in doing photos and stuff like that. I'm not going to discount that by any means, but I just see that there's a real community with real people when it comes to creating a podcast. And the numbers of podcasts, it's just it grows every single year. 46 million Americans listen to podcasts. The average listener consumes 6 podcasts a week. It's around the 25 to 40-year-old demographic. They're well educated, like yourselves. And 56% are social media users. And there are the people that go more than 8 hours a day online, more than 1.72 hours in social networks. So the question is, where is your community located? And that's the important thing, because you might be working in Facebook and you find out your community is actually in LinkedIn, and you haven't even touched LinkedIn, and you're missing out on a whole bunch of customers. So finding out where your community is located is a very important thing, because there's a ton of communities out there. And of course with podcasting, it gets a little bit more complicated simply because of the fact that they have their own communities. Now, for instance, if you do a podcast on SoundCloud and Blog Talk Radio, these are two hosting sites. They have their own social networks attached to them, and you get to talk to people within SoundCloud and Blog Talk Radio. You have iTunes, and then of course Stitcher, which is the big one. I mean, Stitcher Internet Radio crosses all the platforms, whether you have an iOS device, an Android device, a Windows device, or a BlackBerry device, and a couple others as well. So you can actually put your podcast on here. People can listen to them, watch them, or actually just listen to them, this is not video. Listen to them here, like them from here, post to Twitter from here, and go from there. So it's actually just this awesome arm when it comes to pushing out your content to other people, and other people responding to what you do. So the question is, who would you cater to if you put together a podcast and you put it into your social media plans? What are your 5 areas? Are you in the technology geeks? Are you in the marketing geeks? Are you CEOs? Do you want to cater to the top 1% of the world? What's your list? Driving traffic to a podcast, I'm going to tell you, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It gets better through time and through a little bit of promotion. And once you start getting your community, they start helping you with the driving of traffic. We're going to start with this guy right here. Does anybody know who he is? Oh wait, that's a bad picture. Let me give a better picture of him. There we go. This guy's his name is Dave Weiner. And he's kind of like the king of podcasting. Why is he the king of podcasting? Well, you might think, oh no, that's Adam Curry. Dave Weiner and Adam Curry from MTV both pretty much put what podcasting is together. What did Dave Weiner do? Dave Weiner created what was called the tag enclosure, added to RSS feeds to allow audio, video, PDF, or EPUB files to pass through an RSS feed. And of course, he went to the University of Wisconsin, graduated in 1970, well, during this time. But the whole point is that, you know, this boy's from Wisconsin. He starts from New York, but he's from Wisconsin. That's the important thing here. Everybody's podcast show starts at 1. And that's you. I remember when I did my first show, and I went back and I listened to it, and then I looked at the stats and it said 1. It's like, oh, that was me. But it gets better. It really does get better, because 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 10. I look back, when I went back and looked at my podcast a couple weeks later, actually it went up to like about 300 listens. So 300 people actually checked out my first ever episode, and that was like 8 years ago for Geekazine. And as you keep going, you keep getting these numbers, and they're going to go up and they're going to go down. And you find during the winter that they go up more because people are inside more, and during the summer they go down because people are outside more. However, that's going to change, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But you find that, you know, you'll get a consistent number, and you'll see the area, whether it be 100 or 200 or 500 or 1,000 or 10,000. You get 10,000, let me know, and we'll get you sponsors for that show. The important things are just like with anything else. You plan the podcast, you plan the budget, and you plan for review. Plan your podcast. Don't just, oh, I'm going to do a podcast, here's my podcast, it's out there. Plan the budgets, figure out how much you're gonna spend in the end of the game, and if it's too much, then you can review everything about 6 months from now or a year from now and see if if it's working for your engagement. In fact, if anybody that's trying to plan to start a podcast, here's the 7 things that I would suggest that you do before you even start that first podcast. First of all, you plan your podcast by checking out your competition, putting together your business plan. And yeah, it should be as much of a business plan as with your company or your whatever you're doing in there. And of course, setting the budget. Promote your show by helping out others. Spend some time on Facebooks, on groups, on Reddits. Don't go and say, yeah, I know everything there is to know about my whatever it is. Go there and just kind of, if they ask a question, say, yeah, I'll help you with that. And then they'll come back, they'll organically come back to your profile, find out who you are, and as long as you're saying, hey, I'm doing a podcast on June 1st, then they'll go, okay, well, maybe I'll listen to that. So make sure that you have all your fields populated of who you are in any of these social networks, because that's where people go to find out who you are. And that's a lot of times when I'm on Twitter and I'm doing my I guess I'm doing Twitter farming. So I get these people that friend me and I friend them back. But and especially LinkedIn, because they don't want you to have people come onto your LinkedIn that you don't know. So anybody that doesn't have a profile picture on LinkedIn, anybody that doesn't have actually says what they do, if they say, I'm the god of the world, I'm like, no. And I'll actually just ignore it or not follow them. Because they'll unfollow you once the second that you follow them. Or they'll send you an email message saying, hey, would you like to make some money? Or something like that. I think this is feeding back a little bit, right? Let me just turn this down a little bit. So, talk to people, get to know them, bring them into your community, and you'll find some people that are all of a sudden, you don't know them today, but a year from now, they could become your best friend for whatever you do. Number 3, think of your podcast as a vertical business. If you've got joesmarketing.com, you should have joesmarketing.com, joesmarketingpodcast.com. You set that start date and you schedule it and you work that as a separate business. You set up the promotion budget for that separate business. You plan to advertise for that separate business. You create a press release for that separate business. And most important, you get its own website. And there's 2 reasons why you want to get your own website. Well, actually 3 reasons why when you get your own website. 1 is because podcasters hate it if they have to dig around a website to find your podcast. 2, you've separated, you have 2 different entities here. So you can, so when you go, the podcasters have the links here, you have your business information here, and the 2 will cross very little, but they won't really majorly cross. And of course, if things don't work out with your podcast, or you decide to change things up on it, you can actually make those changes easy and not affect your main moneymaker right there. And then 3, it's great SEO. I mean, you're linking back and forth between 2 podcasts. And yeah, what you can do is you can say joesmarketingpodcast.com joesmarketing.com/podcast, and then have that the domain joesmarketingpodcast.com go point there. But separating the 2 podcasts, it helps with, like I said, with your links. It helps with your with getting your message across, and then you got 2 URLs to promote as 2 separate businesses. Number 4, you want to set your budget. We're going to be really quick on that. You could put together a podcast using your phone if you wanted to. And there's a lot of programs out there. $10, a little program called Boss Jock. You can put it on your phone, you can put it on your iPad. There's Android apps out there that you can record. You record interviews. I could sit here and I could record Sean right now, do a one-on-one interview, take it back, poof, have it up as a podcast within 20, 30 minutes if I wanted to. But if you really want to get technical on it, you want to get higher end on it, yeah, it's going to cost you, it can cost you. You know, you could buy a studio, you could buy the Orpheum and do all your podcasts here. I don't know how much that would cost. Does anybody have a price on that? So anyway, but the whole point is, you know, the sky's the limit. You can start on a dime if you need to, and then grow from there. But it's important to, of course, set the budget. for your first 2 years to see if this is going in the direction that you want to. Number 5, ask people to listen and to reply. And this is the one thing I'm amazed that people don't do. It's just kind of like, okay, I'm starting a podcast. Okay, my podcast is here. There's my podcast. Oh, I hope I get in the new and noteworthy section in iTunes, because then I'm going to really get to 10,000 people. And it doesn't work that way. You want to start out on the best foot possible. So you ask your friends. You ask your family. You ask people that you meet. Hey, come to my pod, and don't just say, hey, can you listen to my podcast? That'd be great. Thank you. It'd be more like, hey, Sean, I'm starting a podcast on June 1st. I'd really love it if you could do this, listen to this podcast. We can listen to it together or something like that if you want, but I'd really love your feedback, because I know you know podcasting, and you know what you like and what you don't like, and I'd love to find out a little bit more about that. So ask everybody, ask your dog walker if you have one, to listen to your podcast. Podcast call to action. Now, this is the one thing that I always tell people when they start a podcast. Don't sell yourself the whole 20 minutes, 30 minutes, hour, however long your podcast is. Sell yourself in 2 minutes or less, and that's through your call to action. So then I would say, and this is brought to you by Geekazine. You can come out to geekazine.com and be part of the group here. And sometimes the best thing to do is in your call to action, give them something to get, a little bit of swag. If you come back every week, I'll pick a winner, and I'll get you a sticker. I'll get you a pen. I'll get you something that's, only cost me a few pennies to do, but, it's going to bring you back next week, and I know that. So it basically, it helps increase the interaction of your community. It defines your ultimate goals. It gives people an idea of your intentions, and it's the only time you sell something. Make the show about something else with 2 minutes about yourself. Of course, keep it in the area that you're talking about. Number 6, set up a quick survey. Nothing more than 2 questions. First question, it's a 1 to 5. What did you think of the show? Second part is a little text box. What would you like to see different? How would you improve this and stuff like that? Just simple. You can do this on SurveyMonkey. You can go Google form on this and get results. And even if one person replies to that, that's still gold right there in changing your podcast. So set up a survey, simple survey, nothing complex. And then ultimately, when you start getting people that are really interested in your community, ask them, what type of survey do you want? Okay, if I send you out a 20-question survey, will you respond to it? And if they say yes, send it out. And if they say no, don't send it out. And then wait for more community to come in and ask the question again a year or 2 down the road. All right. So this is all about using podcasts to drive social networks and your social marketing. And these are what I'm going to show you now is all the do's and don'ts that you should think about when you have your podcast set up and you're ready to go. Quality of your whatever post you make for that podcast is simply king. You want to have a good image of your episode. You want to have a paragraph of what the show is about, and you want to have a couple hashtags in there to kind of find people that are just kind of searching for certain hashtags. For example, this is an episode of Wearable Today that we did a couple weeks ago about Google Glass and their reboot project. It's called version 3.0. This is the post I put on Facebook. It's got the picture on there, and I use YouTube set up these guidelines. They want to have images 1280 by 720 or 720p if you want to get really technical on it. You want to show a face or a product nice and clearly. You want to have some text in there explaining what your title is about, just like you would have a title on your blog post or your podcast or something like that. And then, of course, links to all your logos and stuff like that, so they know it's a weekly show, and go from there. I got a paragraph on below. I have 3 hashtags: wearable technology, wearable today, and geek out. On Twitter, same thing. This is my day in tech history post. May 17th, 1902, the Antikythera mechanism was discovered. And it's technically the first analog computer out there. And it was used to discover eclipses and star patterns and stuff like that. The Greeks used it hundreds of years before a computer was ever built. And this tweet shows you that that's what this podcast is about. And you can click on it if you want to learn a little bit more, or if you want to move on, go from there. But at least you know, you see the picture, you see the link, you know exactly what it's about. And it's only got a couple, once again, 3 hashtags: history, podcasting, geek out. You're going, geek out? That's kind of weird. That doesn't explain anything. Well, yes and no. About 2 years ago, I decided to use the tagline geek out. I'm not the first person to do it by any means, and I don't own geek out and trademarks or anything like that. And if you go up on Twitter and you do a hashtag for geek out, you'll find people that are simply they're using geek out as well. But I wanted to see what geek out would do for me in 2 years. My specific personalized hashtag. And because it was gauging on whether I was going to continue with hashtags or not. And I found something very interesting about this. Even though I don't know if they like the other hashtags or not, but they respond to geek out. I have people that they do search for hashtag geek out, and then they find my articles and they respond to it. I even have people that notice that and then end up replying to me with that same hashtag, which makes me realize that when they think geek out, they'll think my shows. They'll think what I do. Which is why TV has invested and radio has invested in hashtags, more TV and movies and stuff like that. That's why you see if you watch Scandal or something like that and somebody dies, you'll see a hashtag in the bottom corner, this person died, or whatever it is. And our Grey's Anatomy, well, I won't do spoilers, but the whole point is that you'll see these specific hashtags, and then of course you'll start a conversation on these specific hashtags. And then you associate them with that. And that's the idea here, I was associating to see if it works. I think it works. Do I have metrics on it? Not really. My numbers continue to grow. And that's a good thing, but it's also because I pull out content. So it's something special, it's like a tagline. So if you decide that you want to try this method, give it a try. Let me know what you think, if you like it, if it works for you. But the most important thing, do not over hashtag your posts. We have a problem with this in the podcasting community. You go on Twitter, and then these people, they do what's called Twitter bombing. It's basically when you get done with your audio episode, you take the link for the audio episode, and then you put it into a URL shortener, and then you take that shortened link and then you put it into a new tweet, and then they have like 7 or 8 different Twitter profiles, and they'll cross promote it. And so when you click on the link, it goes to the audio file as opposed to a blog post, which it boosts their numbers because you're clicking on their audio file. And then they get about a million people that click on that, and then they can go to their sponsors and say, yeah, we got 1 million people that listen to our show. No, they don't listen to the show. They listen to the first 2 seconds of the show, get completely annoyed because of the fact that they clicked on the link, didn't realize what they were doing, and left. So these Twitter bombs, they become really problematic because they end up with all these hashtags. Hashtag podcast, hashtag podcasting, podcaster. So I avoid anything with tons of hashtags on it. 2 to 3, that's always been the norm. If you're on Twitter, you also want to put on 1 or 2 people's Twitters. If you're talking to somebody from, I don't know, if you're talking to somebody from SMBMad, use the Twitter handle SMBMad. If you're talking from the Orpheum, you should use @MadOrpheum. And if you're listening to me and you really want to tweet me, you can say @Geekism. Simple as that. But don't go past that. Don't start throwing stuff, unless you're in Instagram. Instagram, they love hashtags. They thrive on hashtags, but everybody else, they don't like it. I like to post stuff, but automated posts, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. If you're in WordPress, this is one of my favorite plugins. It's called Social. It's by MailChimp. And it does 2 things. One is it helps bring traffic to your email marketing plans, which is just as important in a podcast as it is in a blog as it is in a Facebook or whatever. Email, I know many podcasters that swear by email campaigns that drive their traffic even more. But social is awesome because the best part is once you hit that OK button on your blog, on your podcast, it comes up to another page that says, well, how do you want to sculpt the message for Twitter? How do you want to sculpt the message for Facebook? Because, you know, don't you hate it when you're in Facebook and all of a sudden you start seeing a whole bunch of Twitter handles and they go absolutely nowhere? Well, with social, what you can do is you can put the Twitter handles in the Twitter posts and you can turn them into hashtags or just take them out in the Facebook posts. And you can post to multiple Facebooks and multiple Twitters with different types of messages. And that's what I like it. I wish it had LinkedIn on there, but you know, that's why they have, I thought IFTT was the next one on here, but I'm going to talk about that in a second here. But basically, Pinterest. This is the other reason why I like making images. You set a featured image on a blog post, on a podcast, on a even a set of photos that has the explanation of what you're trying to send out here. You can post that anywhere. You can post that to Instagram, you can post that to Pinterest, you can post that to LinkedIn, you can post that to Facebook, Google+, Twitter, all the other social networks. And they'll know in one picture what this whole podcast, what this whole thing is about. And this is I do a YouTube show called Podcast Hacks, where I talk about things you can do to save yourself a couple dollars and go from there. This is my favorite one here. It's a quote. You can read the quote. It's not really about the quote. It's in Jenna's show here. But a lot of podcasters don't do that. Don't do this. Is take a time to sit down and listen to a little bit. Pull a couple quotes from whoever you're interviewing or whatever you're doing, and create a Facebook post from that. Create a Twitter post from that. Create a LinkedIn. You know, you can take this quote and go on LinkedIn and create a 1,500-word article around this quote, and that can drive people to the podcast and drive people to your social networks because they're seeing somebody else talk about things. They know that if you're doing one-on-one interviews, and they know that you are planning to do more, so they'll get into your community a little bit more. All right, move on quick here. Promote your content resources, your iTunes links, your Stitcher links, your Facebook page. You should have a Facebook page for your podcast, just like with the website. If you have joesmarketing.com with joesmarketingpodcast.com, you have Joe's Marketing Facebook page and Joe's Marketing Podcast Facebook page. And promote it. Say, hey, come to the Facebook page and like it. Hey, the iTunes link is right here. Please subscribe. The Google Plus link pages are here as well. And of course, your call to action. Always, every now and then, pull out your call to action as well. Because you'll have two in this case. One is listen to the podcast, and two, check me out and check out what I do. Promote your past episodes. This is another thing that a lot of podcasters don't do to really push their social media, especially if you're evergreen. And evergreen is basically your podcast can be listened to 5 years from now and still have as much relevance as you did it as you did it today. I put this in WordPress. I use this feed because WordPress does a lot of cool stuff with RSS feeds. And basically it says, when it enters into page 3 of my blog posts, then retweet it out. Another thing you can do is there's a plugin called a Revival Post. They have a pro version and a regular version. Regular version's free, the pro version costs money, and they do a little bit more to it. And that's all well and good, but you know, the free version works just as well. And basically what you can say is, I have posts, I want you to every 4 hours look at the posts I did in the last 365 days, choose one and post it up on Twitter. Choose one, post it up on Facebook. And re-engage people. Because you might not get the 1,500 the first time around, the second time around. You might get 700, you might get 500, you might get 100. But that's 100 more than you did with the 1,500. It adds together and adds up. And then of course, IFTTT, if this and that. If you don't know about this website, you need to learn about it. Because they do recipes of just a whole ton of different recipes between different social networks. So for instance, with the MailChimp one, social, it doesn't do LinkedIn. So I can actually say, if this tweets out from here, send it over to LinkedIn. This one is a podcast blog, which basically says, if it's, and you can set the time of day. Let's say you podcast on Mondays. If it's Monday at 10 a.m., I want you to tweet saying, hey, my podcast is coming out today, come check it out. Continuous content. This is the future of where podcasting is going with social media. Imagine this, the Internet of Things. I don't wear my Google Glass anymore, but I have a better cell phone. I have fitness trackers. I have internet-connected car. I have this and that and everything. Where is your customer going to engage you in the next 5 years? I'm working on an idea where the idea of the show is you start at home. You wake up in the morning, and you get the kids out of bed, you come downstairs, and you turn on the TV to watch whatever show, and you make the kids breakfast, and you get them ready, and then they all pile in the car, and you drive from there to school, and then you go to your work, and then you get out of your car and you go to work. You go up to your office and you sit down at your desk, and you turn on your computer, and you make people think you start working. But what if you started at the house? You turn on the TV. There's the show, your morning show. You fix the kids' breakfast. You're watching the content. And then all of a sudden it's time to, we're late, we gotta go, but there's a cool segment coming up. Oh well, turn off the TV, get in the car, turn on the Internet of Things in your car, and you're continuing to listen to that show that you were just watching at home. You drop the kids off, you go to work, you wait for that commercial break, you turn off your car, you run up to your office, you sit down at your desk, you turn on your laptop, and then you get to that actual segment that you wanted to hear. All from one source. And of course, even in plane travel, like I said, with GoGo Wi-Fi improving, you'll be able to catch any content that you want from a plane. You'll be able to there are parks that have Wi-Fi nowadays. You'll be able to sit in the park and eat lunch and catch that content. And it's just an amazing time where you can do anything and you can be promoted anywhere. I've had people say, yeah, I was on the plane and I was listening to your shows. I downloaded your shows because I wanted something to listen to as I was flying and go from there. I wanted to watch something while I was flying. And so I downloaded your shows. And now I'm a community member. I'm hooked. I'm going to leave you on this one. This is a quote from Kevin Smith. And the podcasting, I swear to you, on its worst day, the podcasts are better than our best films because they're more imaginative, there's no artifice, and it's far more real. I think I pronounced artifice right. Is that right? Any grammar people out here? Good. So, bottom line is, use podcasting as a transport. Use podcasting as a promotional tool for what you do. People, and it's going to be every Monday. That post is going to be there. So when people are doing their 1.72 hours of flipping through Facebook, they're going to see your post. If they see a good post, they're going to engage on a good post. If they're going to say, hey, my show's here, check it out, whatever, or something, they're not going to link on it. They're not going to click on it. They're not going to listen to it. And then they're not going to engage with you. And when they engage with you, they become part of your community. And that's the coolest thing.